As I promised, I have yet more content covering World of Warcraft's classic server launch. This time I have a personal crusade to levy against Blizzard Entertainment, the developers behind the game. Let's talk about RP-PvP servers, Blizzard. As of the month before the launch of Classic WoW, there are still no confirmation there will be a RP-PvP server. At the moment we have heard there will be PvE, PvP, and RP servers. RP servers which feature a RP rule set, but what is stopping people from role-playing on a PvE server? On a PvP server, what stops you is, well, just getting griefed or ganked over and over again, which ruins any chance of roleplay. This is where RP-PvP servers come into play. RP-PvP servers are a nice place for roleplayers who like meaning in their PvP, players who prefer maybe more mature audiences, and finally a server that has RP and names in forest, which helps with immersion. RP-PvP servers feature a PvP rule set and enforce the RP portion through a unique player report system. I say unique because instead of GMs just having to constantly enforce RP, which is just too difficult to manage, players can report a situation and summon a GM to assist if someone is breaking the roleplay egregiously, or harassing an RP event. The passion of roleplayers in World of Warcraft is certainly undeniable. With a depth of lore and an ever-present conflict, the Horde versus Alliance struggle is a centerpiece in the story of World of Warcraft. Unless you flag on a PvE server or join a PvP server where you can't guarantee that roleplay will be even accepted or supported. Well, the best place that such a struggle present in WoW can be realized, in my opinion, is the RP-PvP server. But RP-PvP servers in WoW wouldn't become a thing until the year after WoW launched, in 2005. RP-PvP wasn't a server until patch 1.8, but it was demanded by the fans of the MMO, who wanted the same RP rule set present on the RP servers to be enforced on a server with a PvP rule set. One of the original 3 servers erected would be none other than the well-known RP-PvP server, Emerald Dream. Emerald Dream would continue to be a popular and successful WoW server even after servers sort of lost their meaning with the whole phasing and battle group thing, so identity didn't matter anymore. So a server created by player demand would go on to be one of the most successful WoW servers. Shocking, right? Well, no, because the community identified a need and expressed it, and it's still fruitful today in Emerald Dream and many other well-known RP-PvP servers such as the Venture Co, and of course the newer of the RP-PvP servers, but most RP-focused of all, Ravenhold. With World of Warcraft set to launch in Classic Age in an ode to the original vanilla launch of WoW, RP-PvP servers have been said to not be included, but perhaps a possibility still? WoW developer Omar Gonzalez, the man often listed as being the biggest reason that WoW Classic became a thing, stated in an interview.
We're going to be opening a role-playing realm, and we are still considering options on RP-PvP realm, possibly.
Lead WoW developer Ion Hesychostas stated that RP servers are intended for launch, but cites them not doing RP-PvP servers due to them being, well, too niche. But is this claim necessarily true? A survey that came out last year and featuring over 18,000 submissions showed a different tale. As the graph on screen shows, RP-PvP came in at 7.8% popularity, eclipsing RP servers by triple, and falling a little bit less than half of the PvE servers. These numbers seem to tell a different story than the one that Ion and Omar were just telling. It's almost like instead of Blizzard just offering one RP-PvP server per region, which is all we are asking for, they would rather just be safe, aka not have to spend money or the resources to flip a switch because they don't think the servers will be popular enough. Well, think no longer, guys, here's some proof. Oh, and here's some more. This post requesting an RP-PvP server on the WoW Classic forums has over 23k views, 2.1k posts, and 9.5k likes. It's one of the most popular threads in the entire forum. So no longer is it a question of are there enough players who are interested, because it seems quite clearly that, based on the successful history of RP-PvP servers in Classic WoW and Modern WoW, the polling data done recently, and the consistent forum presence of the community asking for an RP-PvP server, that RP-PvP servers are absolutely in demand and can work. There are 100 more forum threads and conversations had about wanting an RP-PvP server or just an experience in WoW. This is great to see. I personally am very excited for the possibility of RP-PvP in WoW Classic. An RP server, frankly speaking, technically isn't nearly as required by the community. That's because an RP server has a PvE rule set as well. The only difference between it and a PvE server is the RP enforcement, which, if you guys remember, is based on player reports. But without PvP flagging, it's difficult for a PvE server to become inhabitable for RP versus a PvP server. The RP-PvP server is different. Because with a PvP server, it's a widely different experience than a RP-PvP server oftentimes. PvP servers have no control for quality of players, reports aren't really gonna do anything if RP isn't being enforced at all, and it's much easier to ruin RP on a PvP server. And frankly speaking, for even some die-hard PvP fans, they much rather would play on an RP-PvP server due to the maturity and community events and just overall presence of the community. PvP servers where you are flagged in most later zones, meaning getting killed over and over again by the same people potentially, and well, RP-PvP servers in some ways can kind of mitigate that. And that's just another reason that people gravitate towards a server with more maturity and community focus, such as a RP-PvP server. So now that we have gone over why we should have an RP-PvP server in Classic WoW, what are some possible reasons Blizzard wouldn't do an RP-PvP server? Well, the only one that I can think of is the obvious point that Blizzard themselves has put out. They simply aren't willing to risk the time or money to include an RP-PvP server because they have this big fear of the population being too low. I don't know a whole lot of other reasons that Blizzard could have for not including at least one RP-PvP server per region. But if you are listening now, Blizzard, and if not, everyone else who is listening, just go at Blizzard. We, the players who will be playing Classic WoW at launch, want an RP-PvP server to create many more amazing tales and stories in the rich lore of Warcraft and the support of the community. I believe it to be necessary to have an RP-PvP server if you want the most authentic WoW experience. That's because, theoretically, on an RP-PvP server, you can effectively do every bit of content and it's supported. RP, PvP, and PvE. And when the central theme of World of Warcraft is a war between the two factions, the Horde and the Alliance, and you are launching a Classic WoW without an RP-PvP server, Classic WoW launching with no PvP objectives, no PvP honor systems, and such surely seems lacking much of the support for the PvP side of things. But by including an RP-PvP server, you can kind of circumvent that. With players in the community creating their own stories and events, PvP doesn't necessarily need to be properly rewarded right away if you can effectively create a narrative that engages people and makes sense. So RP-PvP is merely a server for people like myself who want the burden of building, growing, and enjoying the world on their shoulders because they love sharing in those experiences with other players. I won't complain, Blizzard, if you don't include the honor system or other PvP features at launch, since those weren't with the patch at 1.12. But RP-PvP servers were introduced shortly after and have continued to be widely successful. So instead of looking at the past and arbitrarily deriving ourselves of the pleasure and added value that RP-PvP servers add, we can just all drink the Kool-Aid. I saved some for you too, Blizzard. I personally want an RP-PvP server in World of Warcraft because I plan on having an RP-Light Horde PvP clan, led by a female orc warlord set on gaining more favor in the eyes of the war chief. We all PvP together, we craft some cool stories and characters surrounding it. It provides a more immersive experience. It makes each conflict that much more enjoyable as it's getting chronicled and told as a story week by week. Is this possible without an RP-PvP server? But you are going to effectively mute most of that RP by not having it as a rule supported on the aspect of a PvP server. And then on top of that, you are mixed in with players who might just want to gank for no reason other than just pure enjoyment. If there's no RP-PvP server, we will try and pick a PvP server that has the most RPers on it, so at least we can kind of try and do something on our own. So I leave you guys with this call to action. If you want to help create more stories, more community events and involvement, and you want to try to play Classic WoW on a more mature and community-centric server like an RP-PvP server, as described in this video, make sure to add everyone at Blizzard on Twitter, email, or any platforms that you can reach out to them, or who is involved with WoW, and let them know. #WoW Classic RP-PvP. Thanks for watching, everyone.